And the Battle of the Beanfield, which is a kind of retro documentary, part retro, part shot at the time, looking at the Battle of the Beanfield, that celebrated or notorious event when the police were chasing New Age travellers, as they were called then, all the way to Stonehenge and back again. It was absolutely shocking to see the brutality of the police. I've had a couple of episodes myself when I've been treated very badly by police as part of public demonstrations, but nothing, Dale, like you witnessed. Dale was at the Battle of the Beanfield. Clips of him have now been cut into the film, and I'd like to say, Dale, I hope this isn't too personal. When I saw that film, I thought, this man is really shocked. Just to see you recalling it, you're really shocked. And I wondered perhaps if you might have considered you might be suffering from PTSD.
Yeah, I have considered that actually, and think it's highly likely. I think I buried it for a few years off the back of the Beanfield. I left the country actually to get away from the police. I started sleeping with one eye open, which seemed to be a strange thing to do.
I'm sorry, was that a joke or is that serious?
No, seriously.
Literally with one eye open?
Yes, I mean I didn't know it myself, my friends told me because I couldn't see it obviously, because I was asleep. But yeah, it was that kind of event where I think you certainly could get PTSD, and I'm pretty sure that I did.
And how many people would be in that similar situation, do you think?
I think there was 500 people arrested, so any number of those. Yeah. There were more people there though that weren't arrested, who would have seen what went on as well.
And looking back now, I mean, it's an awfully long time ago. I mean, do you feel like that issue has been resolved, or is it just sitting there still, one of those things that happened and nobody really gets to the bottom of it?
Yeah, I mean, in a way it's a little bit like Hillsborough. It took about 30 years, didn't it, to have an inquiry, get to the bottom of that and find what we all knew by then. There's been no inquiry into the Battle of the Beanfield or into the brutality at Orgreave and other miners' strikes which preceded it just by a few months really. I think both of those issues are worthy of an inquiry into police brutality.
Yeah, and the interesting thing from my point of view as a journalist was that there was an ITN crew there. It was the only crew that was allowed in or could get in. And when the producers came to look at the footage the next day, they did a short bulletin piece, I think 2 minutes. When the producers came to look the next day, the footage had mysteriously disappeared.
Yeah, I think we had a session, I'm not sure if it was here, but we've been talking about that this week, and the guy said they had 1 minute 55 seconds of coverage of the Beanfield, and they were filming for hours, and everything else disappeared.
Now you're talking about people driving around with the police with truncheons, smashing the windows as they were driving along, kids being handed out, people being dragged out by their hair through broken glass and windows. I mean, it's truly horrific, really.
Yeah, there's...
And probably shouldn't be forgotten.
No, and the police got away with the most incredible lawlessness that day, and I don't think they should be allowed to get away with that actually. If we don't put that right, then it's not a good thing.
Okay, so you moved from that. You're in a very different position now as being a wind turbine tycoon, if I can call you that.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, it's been a long journey. I think we spoke last year on this stage in which we traced the steps of those journeys, so I won't do that again. But let's put you to where you are now, which is a major industrialist and also a donor to the Labour Party and quite a prominent figure in terms of commentary on environmental issues. Where do you think the Labour Party and / the government are on the environment now?
Well, that's a big question.
We got time.
All right then. I think there's been good things they've done. Unbanned onshore wind, unblocked major solar projects, set the target of 100% by 2030 green energy on the grid. It's a very ambitious target. So a bunch of good things. I would say and a bunch of not so good things. Commitment to carbon capture and storage, 22 billion for the next quarter of a century or something crazy. Then the Sizewell, of course, 15 billion was it the other week into that black hole. There's the planning bill. I don't think we need actually to change planning laws to allow more homes to get consented. I think we need to change the rating law to make sure that more homes get built, because there's 1.4 million homes consented in our country waiting to be built, which is almost the entire target that Labour have set themselves.
Yeah, my brothers are property developers. You can boo his if you want, but I think they're on the side of the angels. They have a very big site in the middle of Coventry, and they can't build it because there aren't enough building inspectors. All the building inspectors, I'm laughing, it isn't a joke, building inspectors have been let go by local councils because they seem superfluous. And when you do a major building, you have to have it inspected in steps to make sure the foundation's all right, etc. And there aren't enough of them, so they can't get stuff built. It's something really as simple as that. Is a big problem. But let me take you to nuclear. I mean, the green view, the overall green view on nuclear is split. And George Monbiot, for instance, who could not be considered to be a right-winger, has come down in favour of nuclear because he thinks we can't hit targets without it. And I've always been ambivalent myself. It looked expensive, but maybe we might need it. Do you absolutely think we can do it without nuclear?
I think the sentence you just delivered, missing targets and nuclear, they go together like hand in glove, because nuclear power stations always miss their targets. Hinkley right now was meant to be on the grid in 2016 or something like that. It'll be 2032 maybe, and the budget for it's tripled to over £40 million, which is just crazy. Now Sizewell's been committed to, that can't be on the grid until 2040. So the idea.
So in other words, it's an irrelevance in terms of short-term climate targets.
I think so. I was going to say, in terms of helping us get to net zero and stuff like that, it's going to come a decade after we get to 100% green on the grid. So what's the point of it? The government says we need it for energy security, but I say, what are we going to do in that 10-year gap then before it comes?
And the answer is?
Yeah, I don't hear an answer.
What about mini nukes? I mean, some people seem to think that they might be the way out.
Yeah, I think it's fiction. There are none in the world. I think the Chinese just actually built one last week, but up until that point there were none in the world. And the idea that you can make something smaller and make it less expensive seems to run counter to everything we understand about the laws of scale of economy. You make things bigger to make them cheaper, not usually smaller. But nobody talks about the price of the electricity. There's just £2.5 billion committed to the programme. There are no existing generators. It's a form of nuclear proliferation to have maybe a dozen of these sites around the country. And nobody's talking about how expensive electricity would be. I think it'd be more expensive than Hinkley and Sizewell, which is just madness.
I mean, there's also talk about having mini nuclear stations for every town, but it just baffles me why when somebody comes on air and says, oh, we just need a nuclear power station every time, the presenters never seem to challenge them and saying, well, what about the security implications of this?
Yeah.
Whether or not they're real or perceived. I mean, if you've got a nuke station down the end of the road, you're going to do what you can to stop it. I mean, it would not be called NIMBY by the Daily Mail if you were trying to stop a nuclear power station, would it?
No. And the other thing to bear in mind is nuclear gets talked about in terms of energy security, but the world passed peak uranium a few years ago, in which we reached the point of using more uranium every year than we mine, so we're eating into stockpiles. By around about 2050, there's reckoned to be an actual global shortage of uranium, and we don't make it here in Britain, so we're going to be completely vulnerable to that global market. So there's no energy security in nuclear power.
What about carbon capture and storage? I mean, that's been seized on by a lot of people now, promoted very heavily by big oil and big gas, of course, because it's a way of continuing to use their products. Do you think it's a complete turkey, or do you think it maybe has a slight role to play?
Well, it's interesting. Government said they're putting money into it because at some point it'll stand on its own 2 feet, but they've dedicated 22 billion quid for the next 25 years. So it doesn't look like they expect it to stand on its own 2 feet anytime soon. I think it's a mythological kind of concept. It's talked up by big oil and people like that. It is about business as usual for them. We don't have to worry about not burning fossil fuels because we can just come along and capture the carbon magically afterwards. It doesn't work anywhere in the world at scale economically, and it's a terribly misleading thing.